Hello guys, welcome to all of you on our YouTube channel or website. Don't waste your time to check your Steno script one by one for each error. Use our website www.stenoforall.com with auto checking facility or much more. All candidates are ready to write at a speed of 140 words per minute. This is our sixth dictation. All are ready to write. We have had the experience of Nokia, which at its peak in its Raiperemder factory was one of the world's largest mobile phone plant with 8,000 permanent employees working 3 shifts, producing more than 15 million phones a month and exporting products to over 80 countries. But in 2014, Nokia halted its production operations from this location, disrupting the livelihoods of thousands of workers. Recently, Citibank announced that it would shut India retail banking business as part of a global decision to exit 13 markets. The US-based bank wants to focus on a few wealthy regions around the world. Citibank's exit from the retail segment is after more than 3 decades. The bank has 35 branches employing approximately 4,000 people in the consumer banking business. Closely following this, after 25 years of operations, is auto manufacturer Ford deciding to exit India. This will affect about 4,000 direct employees as it stops making cars at its factories in Sanand, Gujarat and Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Estimates show that another 35,000 indirect employees would also be lost at various levels, creating a massive disruption in the local economy. The exits of high profile global firms affect employment generation in two ways. First, it creates apprehensions among potential investors about choosing that location for greenfield investments or for scaling up existing facilities. Such circumstances generally led to a wait and wait approach, affecting private investments even if an economy claims to have the tag of investor friendliness. A downturn in private investments led to slower employment growth. Second, the process of the destruction of jobs through exit creates mismatches in the labor market. That is, there is a sudden release of high skilled workers which could block possible new entrants who have already invested in their skills. This leads to a leveling down of wages which occurs when high end services firms exit. When large assembly firms exit, there would be a big influx of low skilled workers to other sectors as the same sector which might not be able to absorb the workforce released. This churn in the labor market aggravates an existing unemployment problem. The euphoria on the inflow of FDI and associated benefits needs to be tempered with the reality of the emergence of modern transnational corporations with agility, rapidity, and mobility. When these TNCS emerge as key players in an industry, a proliferation of mergers and consolidations across national and international borders might be frequent. These are efforts to open up new opportunities in new markets. Such waves of expansions and contractions are aimed at acquiring new markets and such new trade opportunities. This process of an internationalization of production is driven by the big firms by investing in and out of developing economies. Growing skepticisms towards more open trade policies and the rise of protectionism have increased the risk and unpredictability of policy environments, leading to deeper reflection on both existing and new investments by global firms. Thus, the next to near permanency of large foreign firms operating for decades is slowly waning. It is here that domestic capital formation and private investment should step in. We are still waiting for it to happen. The idea of a national caste census might be abhorrent when the stated policy is to strive for a casteless society, but it will be useful to establish statistical justification for preserving caste based affirmative action programs. It may also be a legal imperative considering that courts want quantifiable data to support the existing levels of reservation. Political parties with Their base in particular social groups may find a caste enumeration useful if their favored groups are established as dominant in specific geographies, or they may find the outcome inconvenient if the precise count turns out to be lower and has a negative bearing on perceptions about their electoral importance. In this backdrop, the Union government's assertion in the Supreme Court that a census of the backward caste is administratively difficult and cumbersome may evoke varying responses. There are two components to the government stand. First, it asserts that it is a policy decision not to have caste as part of the regular census and that administratively the enumeration would be rendered to so complex that it may jeopardize the decennial census itself. Second, it cites the difficulties and complexities inherent in getting an accurate count of castes given the mind-boggling numbers of castes and subcastes, with phonetic variations and similarities, that people returned as their caste in the socio-economic caste census conducted in 2011. The government has said data from the 2011 SECC were not acted upon because of several infirmities that rendered them unusable. Even in the census up to 1931, when caste details were collected, they were wanting in completeness and accuracy. Further, the data contained 46 lakh different caste names, and if subcastes were considered, the ultimate number may be exponentially high. These points do merit consideration, and even those clamoring for a caste census cannot easily brush them aside. However, these need not mean that an enumeration of the social groups in the country is impossible. A caste census need not necessarily mean caste in the census. It may be an independent exercise, but one that needs adequate thought and preparation. If its ultimate goal is not for political or electoral purposes, but for equity in distribution of opportunities. A preliminary socio-anthropological study can be done at the state and district levels to establish all sects and subcastes present in the population. These can be tabulated under caste names that we have wider recognition based on synonymity and equivalence among the appellations that people use to denote themselves. Thereafter, it may be possible to do a field enumeration that can mark any group under caste found in the available OBC/BC list. A caste census may not sit well with the goal of a casteless society, but it may serve in the interim as a useful, even if not entirely flawless, means of addressing inequities in the society. India's count of active COVID-19 cases has hit a 6-month low, with the number dropping to 3,162. According to a Friday bulletin from the Health Ministry, held by the nearly 56 crore tests done so far, positivity rates or the percentage of those tested who turn out positive have also been showing encouraging trends. The weekly positivity rate has been less than 3% for the last 91 days, and the daily positivity rate has been around 2% for the last 25 days. But this is not time to be complacent. Last September, active cases in India appeared to have peaked at a little over 10 lakh, after which there was a steady decline. Around December 20, it had gently descended to a little around 30 lakh, or the level seen today. Around the same time, the first reports of the clinical trial successes of the Pfizer BioNTech, Moderna and AstraZeneca vaccine brought cheer. Even India's homegrown vaccine seemed to be around the corner, and all of this triggered an optimism that India may have passed the worst. The lack of velocity in hunting for new mutations underlying dangerous new variants mean that the insidious emergence of the Delta variant, which caused the catastrophic peak in April or May, was only understood in hindsight. The nature of the virus, its propensity to evade antibodies, and the inevitable socialization that normal life entails means that there is no absolute nadir in a country's pandemic trajectory at which it can be sure that a fresh threatening wave will not rise again. The 3 crore active cases last December saw around 300 deaths being reported every day. Even today, those numbers are fairly similar. While the spread of infection can be controlled in limited ways, the availability of vaccines and the fact that many large countries now controlled are getting closer to having half their population inoculated with at least one dose means that the biggest threat associated with the pandemic, severe disease, and death is much more tractable than last year. Because crores of Indians have been vaccinated and government officials have optimistic projections that the most adults will be vaccinated with at least a single dose by the year end. There is again an air of optimism. This time, however, the government messaging is more cautious with warnings that the second wave was yet to abate and recommendations of continued behavioral caution. This is also accompanied by projections that say, at its worst, a possible third wave cannot be as catastrophic as the second wave peak, even accounting for significantly more infectious and lethal variants suddenly emerging. Thus, to expand vaccination and track new variants are the only real ways forward. This is our